example I used about Texas chess, with LBJ playing it with Cadillacs and so on and counties. But I mean, just sit down and think of all the weird ways in which you could play chess by means of light flashes, of sounds, and so on. Play it on the piano. Use a sort of Straussonian world and play chess in it if you want to. All right. Now, in the case of language, also, there are classifiers with respect to, as you might call, the matter. In other words, you can classify linguistic items materially in terms of their phonemes, in terms of their sound structure, or their display, their visual display. So that there is such a thing as classifying linguistic items according to what are traditionally called their sign design. But there are also functional ways of classifying expressions. And what I want to suggest is that we understand meaning statements in terms of a special way of forming functional classifiers. Consider the example that which I've often used, that und in German means and. The first thing to note is that the word and is performing a very peculiar kind of function here. It's obviously not functioning as a connective. And as a connective, the word and belongs in such contexts as it is raining and the streets are getting wet. And in other words, you take sentences. There are other uses, of course, in which the word and occurs joining predicates or subjects. Jack and Jill went up the hill. This man is wise and unhappy, and so on. So that there are many ways in which and occurs, but those are its normal functions. Here it's performing a very special kind of function. I want us to review what that function might be. I'm suggesting that when we speak of the German word as meaning and, we are giving a functional characterization of it. We're not, as it were, describing the functioning of it. I'll talk about that in a moment. But we are enabling the person who hears the sentence, to whom we offer the sentence, to figure it out for himself. He will be enabled to understand how the German word functions by rehearsing his own use of this word here. So I'm suggesting that we regard the word and here as functioning as a metalinguistic classifier. It's a cousin of ordinary quotes. But ordinary quotes not only indicate that something performs a linguistic function, but they also concern the materials in which actually embody that kind of functioning. Now, what I want you to do is to think of the dot quote as like an ordinary quote, except that it doesn't simply refer to the materials. As a matter of fact, it's not concerned with the materials in the sense that it implies that anything to which it is correctly applicable has this kind of material here, because it's going to be a purely functional classification in the sense that I mentioned before. So that we're going to have a sortal word which is specifically concerned to classify items in languages which perform the job done in any language by the materials done inside. So that I can say, und in German means and in French means and so on. And these are all classifying expressions. And so we would get the following then. Und in German means and is going to be reconstructed as an und, or the und, in German is let me just make that thorough. Let me move right to the point I want to make, because I'm going to need one more technical device before I go on further. Uns in German are dot quote ands. And I can also say A's in French are ands. and so on. Now, according to this strategy, then, the word means, and that's the first and crucial point I want to make. The word means is a specialized form of the copula, and therefore not a predicate word. The meaning, if this analysis is correct, meaning is not a relation, because to say what a word means is to classify it, and therefore, und in German means and, has the form und in German, not und, and this has the same form as dog, included in animal, in the sense that logically it involves the inclusion sign, and this would have the form then for every x, epsilon, und in German implies x, epsilon, dot, and. Now, as I indicated, to say what a word means then is to classify it, and this involves that the word means is a specialized form of the copula. Now, let me press this one step further, because not only do we speak of meaning, but we have specialized meaning words in semantics. We distinguish, for example, between standing for and denotes, and I'm going to be explicating this distinction in a subsequent lecture and relating it to the problem of classes and attributes. But now let's consider the following example. I'm going to first of all give us a contrived example in order to show how this works, and then I'm going to generalize it. I'm going to compare und in German means and with und in German stands for andness. Because when we use the expression stands for in standard semantics of the Freudian type, what we have here is something that goes along with an expression here which ends in ity, could, ness, or prefixed by that. And instead of, I could have done this in terms of conjunction, but conjunction is a Latin verbal noun, and what we have here is here we have another abstract term, and I'm coining this expression andness, and I want to give an account of it. Now I want you to consider the following paradigm, showing again how important a role distributive singular terms play in language. Consider, for example, the muskox is the Indian work animal, a workhorse. Now, here's an interesting sentence because it involves two distributive singular terms here, one in the subject and one in the predicate. And I want to suggest that the muskox is the Indian workhorse is equivalent to musk oxen are in India or Indian workhorses. So that this sentence involving the two distributive singular terms can be regarded as a way using singular terms of saying something which can be said in terms of a straightforward use of the copula. And indeed, I want therefore to suggest that we have the following as our first formulation here: the und, or an und in German. But I'm going to put this in terms of the. I'm going to use the as my distributive singular term from now on. The und is the German dot and. Now, the suggestion I'm now going to make is that andness is equals the dot and. In other words, I'm going to suggest, as my rational reconstruction here, and we'll see if it works, that ity, could, ness, and that do two things. In the first place,